Welcome to Worship Tutorials. My name is Brian. This is Bryce Sheehan. And today we're going to talk to you about the best cheap guitar.
Yeah.
I think that's how the question is always asked to us. We've done a few live events and it's just a cool question answer time. And we always get this question over and over and over again. And it's always ambiguous. Like, we don't really know what cheap means, what kind of guitar.
Or budget, yeah.
Yeah, so the question is, what is the best cheap guitar? And so Bryce and I are here to tell you, in our opinion, what we would pick if we were looking for guitars, acoustic and electric, on a budget. And we'll probably hit amps too.
Yeah, if we have time.
Okay, so let's start with acoustic guitar. I think a beginning guitar player, an acoustic guitar is a great way to start.
Definitely.
Because you don't need an amp, you just play it, and you can hear it and it sounds. And our pick is
the Martin 000
X1AE. All right?
Yeah.
So we're going to show you an image of it, and if you are on YouTube, there will be links below this video where you can click and find all these guitars. And we're going to talk amps too. And if you're at Worship Tutorials, links will be below as well. So the Martin 000 X1AE, it runs
$560 new.
$560-ish, brand new from Guitar Center or Musician's Friend or Sam Ash or wherever. And so I have played a lot of cheap guitars. And Bryce, you've played a lot of cheap guitars.
I've dabbled.
You dabbled.
Throughout the years.
I've played a lot of nice guitars as well.
Same here.
And so, while this isn't the cheapest guitar that you're going to find, $560, that's brand new. Again, you can find it used for much less. It is a guitar that both Bryce and I have. We were talking about this earlier. Both of us would buy this guitar as like a backup guitar or like a house guitar at our church. I think it'd be a great
it'd be an awesome house guitar. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I've played two different I've had two different friends who both have one of these guitars, and I've played them both, and they seem consistent.
Very consistent.
Yeah.
Which, to be totally honest, for a cheaper guitar is not as common. Consistency.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And they sound great. So it's tell us, Bryce, about the 000 body style, because I think a lot of people might not know what that means.
So 000, it's not as much about the body style.
Okay.
So the 000 guitars actually have the orchestra model body style. So you'll see Martin 000s and Martin OM series guitars. They have the exact same body shape and size. The difference is the scale length. Which is what makes the 000 such a popular guitar for a lot of people. It's got a slightly shorter scale length. So what that's going to give you is a little less tension on the strings, which makes it a lot easier to play. If you like to bend strings on acoustic, like you can do that on this guitar with a little bit more ease. But the biggest thing, again, is just the tension on the strings. It's so comfortable to play. It's not a huge difference. I think it's somewhere in the ballpark of an inch. And I think it might actually have a slightly narrower width at the nut as well. Don't quote me on that one, but I know it definitely has a smaller scale length. And for me, it's just a compact instrument that way. And it's very comfortable to sit and play for a long time. One of the things about the orchestra model, though, like that body style, same as the 000, is it is shallower. So again, when you're sitting and playing, your arm's not like lurched over it for a long time. It's very near to you, and it's comfortable to play.
Yeah, I didn't know that about scale length.
Yeah.
I had no idea. So, scale length is just the length of the neck. It does mean your frets are a little closer together.
Yep.
So it's a little tighter. You probably won't notice a huge difference. You do notice it in how you feel. Because electric guitars is a big deal, the scale length. Fenders are typically longer than Gibsons. I didn't know that. And it usually makes it a little easier to play.
It definitely does.
They're smaller guitars. The most popular guitar body style is called the Dreadnought, which was also developed by Martin Guitars.
Geniuses over there.
I know. Yeah, we like Martin guitars. The 000 body style has been used by quite a number of famous musicians. Most notably, Eric Clapton has a 000. He has a signature. John Mayer has a 000 signature as well. And those are two well-known acoustic players.
And they're blues players
Yeah.
for the most part, so they do like to bend the strings, which again the triple O really makes it more easy to do.
They have a nice balanced sound. Bradford, who you see in these videos a lot, he plays a triple O Martin.
Which again is not about the body style. So if you ever see Bradford's guitar, it's not the orchestra model body style, but it is the triple O scale length.
Okay.
So.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
But they're great guitars. Dreadnoughts will get you a little bigger, boomier sound, which on a less expensive guitar can actually hurt you because it can be very boomy in the bottom end and sound kind of muddy.
Not balanced.
Yeah, not very balanced, but a triple O is going to typically be a little more balanced across the tonal spectrum. And that Martin is great. I've played it on a number of occasions, like in a worship setting, live, and I really like it. In fact, I considered buying one as a backup.
And if I didn't have an acoustic guitar, we were talking about this earlier today. If I didn't have an acoustic guitar and I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money, I would buy that one. Like, that is the one I would actually buy for myself.
Yeah.
So I like it that much.
Now, there are probably a lot of other acoustic guitars that are good guitars. A couple brands come to mind for me. Seagull
does make good stuff. They do for in that price range.
I've played some Epiphone master-built guitars that I really like. I've played Epiphone non-master-built guitars that I've never liked. I've never played an Epiphone acoustic
that you were like over the moon about.
That I thought this was worth buying, except for the master-built series, which is a little more money from them. I can't say that I've ever played anything under that sort of price bracket, about $500 new, that I've really liked. And this brings up another point about what is cheap. But before we do that, let's talk about electric guitars and amps, and then we'll come back to more of a discussion about budget. So we both have the same pick for the cheap electric guitar, and that is find a used or new if you want to, but find a used Fender Mexican-made Telecaster. They are so solid.
One of the reasons we picked that is because I think there's really a reason why Telecasters are so popular in the worship community, and you see a lot of church musicians playing them. They all get, no matter if you have a semi-hollow version or the pickup configuration is different, they all have that tele sound, and it just really fits with a lot of modern worship music, whether it's rhythm or lead. And another thing that I like about Telecasters versus, say, a Strat, and I love Stratocasters. I mean, they get that sound, but only having 3 pickup selections, it kind of keeps you out of trouble. And they all sound good.
They do.
Versus on a Strat, like on any song, versus on a Strat, not every pickup position sounds great on a song.
That's true. Yeah, Strats have a very distinct sound in certain positions. So Bryce and I have, through the magic of video editing, both appeared with Telecaster-style guitars. Now, neither one of these are Fenders. This is a guitar that I don't play very much, but that I would never, ever part with because my grandfather, who is in his 90s now,
Wow.
was a carpenter all of his life. So my grandpa, Reimer, and I built this guitar sort of from scratch. The neck we didn't build from scratch, but the rest of it we did. I just bought a piece of lumber and we went to town on that thing. And this is made by MJT, but this isn't about these guitars. I just wanted to show you. This is a Telecaster style guitar, and you can see they come in a lot of varieties. This one is semi-hollow, while this one is solid body. This has your standard traditional single coil pickup setup. This is actually 2 humbuckers in that Telecaster. And Fender, with their Mexican-made line of Telecasters, they put out a lot of different varieties as far as pickups. Bryce and I both kind of feel like, we were talking about this too, if you stick with just the standard Telecaster setup, 2 single coil pickups, I think that's a great place to start. And if you want another guitar that sounds a little different, you can get something with a different set of pickups in it. But it is, I think, so all of us on staff, all of us play Telecasters.
Yes,
almost.
We all have one.
Yeah, all of our
And we do
staff
all
worship
play
leaders
it.
at our church.
Yeah.
So I play this one. This is one of my main guitars I play. Bryce has a
I have a very similar
very
version of that.
similar version, like
Yeah.
a thin line telly with standard pickups.
Yeah.
Fuller plays like any number of Telecasters. Bradford plays a 72 thin line.
So it's got the Fender wide range humbuckers.
Yeah.
It's iconic and it
It's
sounds
like
great.
this, but just different pickups. And if you look at the worship landscape of guitar players, lots of people play Telecasters, and there's a reason for it. They're very simple in their design. So this bridge is a very simple design. The pickups, the control, you've just got volume and tone and a three-way selector. Very, very simple. They're not hard to make them well, so you can buy. So like a Strat has a tremolo on it typically. That is something that can go wrong very easily. And if you're a beginner, you'll never be in tune basically, unless you have it set up right.
And I would also venture to say, when you're talking about getting a great guitar on a budget, I would not include a tremolo in that equation.
Do not.
Because you can get a great setup
Yeah.
on a quote budget guitar, but a higher end instrument is going to be it's going to have more attention to detail to keep it in tune when you use a tremolo system.
Yeah.
That's just been my experience. So I might steer clear of the tremolo.
Yeah, I agree with Bryce. It's just more stuff to go wrong that you probably don't know how to fix. But if you have a friend who knows how to set stuff up very well, that's good. Which brings me to another point. If you go to Guitar Center and you play a bunch of guitars right off the wall, most of those guitars are probably at the worst that they'll ever be.
Oh,
so
gosh.
we were talking. I said I don't think most people know that that you can tweak a guitar. It's called a setup. That you can set a guitar up and it'll play so much better. But it has to do with the tension on the neck, which you can typically change. There's a truss rod in here. It has to do with how high these strings are set here at the bridge, so you can raise and lower that. You can move these pieces around so that it's actually in tune
Intonated.
down here and up here. And that's called intonation. But it would be worth your $50 or whatever it costs to find a great technician in your area and have them do a setup on your guitar. And all they do is adjust all of that, and it makes your guitar basically play the best that it is capable of playing. And most guitars, like a Mexican-made Fender, will set up really well, and they'll play very nicely.
Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to play a guitar and also fear for getting tetanus at the same time. If you've ever picked up a guitar off the wall at said chain music store,
we're
felt like
trashing on Guitar Center, but it's all of them.
It's nationwide.
Yeah.
It's an epidemic. So
I mean, if you have 100 guitars on the wall of your shop,
I'm not going to go around and change the strings.
It's going to take a lot of your time to change those strings every week.
Yeah. And they're never in tune.
No.
So.
Yeah.
But anyhow, definitely spend some money getting a good setup.
Yeah.
And it changes the way you look at your personal instrument. It makes you want to play it more because it feels great.
Certainly there are other options that would be great. The Squire, which is also made by Fender, Vintage Modified, is that what it's called?
I believe
Vintage
so, yeah.
Modified series is good. But I think the used market, the prices are probably pretty similar.
It's so similar. Even in the new, like the Squire Vintage Modified stuff, it's not as expensive.
Yeah.
But it's so close you might as well just buy a Mexican-made Fender.
Yeah.
For a Les Paul, in my opinion, is a little different than yours. I think it's the Epiphone standard Les Paul.
Yeah.
Not like a plus top or anything like that. I don't remember the price range of it particularly off the top of my head, but
they're probably around $500.
Oh yeah, probably in
$4
that
to $6,
in that ballpark. Yeah. It feels great. I mean, if you put in, well, I'm not a big Les Paul guy, but in terms of build quality, if you put new electronics in it, it's gonna sound pretty good.
Yeah.
They play okay.
But now we're talking about modifying.
Yeah.
Another great budget line is the PRS SE line, but they cost a little more.
They do.
And the Agile Les Pauls.
Oh, I
are
totally
nice.
forgot about them.
Yeah, they're nice. I used to have one. I sold it because I prefer Fender style guitars, but it was a very well made guitar. And they're around $300, $200 to $300.
Hard to beat that.
Hard to beat that. So as a honorable mention for cheap guitar, there is a line of guitars made by a company called GuitarFetish.com, and they're called Xavier is the brand name. I've actually rubbed it off on this guitar. But this is a Xavier guitar. It's the Jazzmaster JT something. This does have a tremolo on it, which we told you to stay away from. But they have Telecaster style guitars.
They do.
And they're cheap. They're under $200 brand new. And wildly inconsistent.
Very inconsistent, which again, we talked about earlier with budget instruments.
Yeah.
You run into that a lot.
But if you know somebody who can set a guitar up, I would suggest this is a pretty good option if you want a very cheap electric guitar. And they have a lot of guitars there. Guitarfetish.com, a lot of different styles. So I've set up a lot of guitars, and I kind of like doing it. I kind of like to get something and like, let's make this thing, let's get it to the best it can be. This guitar needed a little bit of work out of the box, but once I kind of did my thing to it, it plays really nice, and it sounds really nice.
I actually really enjoy that guitar.
It's cool. It's fun.
There's another worship leader on our staff who will not be named, who for about 2 days bought a Fender Jazzmaster.
Classic player.
Was it a classic player
It was,
Jazzmaster?
yeah. It was like the $600-$700.
Yeah, I mean it was a nice Fender, and we set up an amp in the worship center, and we had his Fender and this sitting right side by side, and we did a shootout. We invited I think 5 different guitar players came in.
Yeah.
They just happened to be there on that day.
Yeah.
We said, hey, play both these. Which do you prefer? It was almost unanimous.
Yes.
That we actually all preferred the feel and sound of this guitar.
It was unanimous for sound, for tone.
Yes.
Everybody thought this guitar sounded better because it has pretty good pickups in it.
It does, yeah.
And almost everybody preferred the feel of this guitar.
Yeah, I mean, so say what you want. This was what, maybe $180?
These are $229.
$229, okay.
But like the Telecaster that they have, I think is like $169 or $79.
Yeah.
It's cheap. And like I said, you might pull it out of the box and it might not play very well. But if you can take it somewhere, or if you know somebody who can set it up, it's a good option.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they sound good. They feel good. I really like the neck on this.
One thing I like about this guitar is and I didn't know it until we set it next to the Fender. Everything about it is a little smaller, which I like because I'm a little smaller. Yeah. But the body is...
I'm getting bigger all the time.
Yeah, the body is a little bit more compact. I think the neck's a little shorter, the scale length's a little shorter. Maybe not.
I think the scale length is the same.
Yeah, I think just the body makes me
25 and a
think.
half,
Yeah. But it feels
is,
great. So yeah, like Brian said, if you can
Feel it.
if you can find somebody who you trust that does a great setup job, a $220 guitar that can be set up to feel and play and sound like this is
it's a great option.
About as good an option as you're gonna find.
But one of the problems is you can't really play them in a store.
Yep,
To
you
get
have
a
to buy
feel
'em.
for them, and if you've never played a guitar, or if you're a beginner, I think that's important. Is to be able to feel it and play it, and you can find a used Fender everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we thought we'd mention this too because they're cool. We like Xavier guitars.
Yeah,
Who knows? Maybe
they're
we'll
fun.
maybe we'll give this guitar away at some point here on Worship.
Maybe.
Tutorials. Bryce is like, give it away.
Give it.
Can I have it?
Give it to me. It might be right now, actually.
I'm taking it.
Hey, thanks, Brian.
You're welcome. All right, so let's talk amps. Bryce, what's your pick?
So, I'm recently getting more into the British sound, but for the longest time, and I think even still, my preference would be more of the American style sound tube amp. So my pick would be...
What do you mean by American and British?
So 6L6 tubes and just a warmer, you might call it like a... Not as
Glassier?
bright. Not as bright. Just a fat bluesy.
Rounder?
Yeah.
You're talking Fender.
Yeah.
You're talking Fender versus Vox.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day...
That's what we're talking.
The showdown of, who makes the greatest amp.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. They both do. So for me, most of the time, I'm going to choose the Fender line. And if we're going to stick with like 15 watts, you think that's good?
I think 15 watts is a good place. Well, it's a good compromise of budget. And a lot of times, I know a lot of you guys that watch these videos are playing in churches, and you probably don't want to be just ridiculously loud.
You don't want to be louder than the main PA. Or so maybe you do, but you shouldn't.
15 watt, and we're talking tube amps here.
Yeah, tube amps because they really do sound better.
Yeah.
So my pick would be for the Fender Blues Junior. It sounds really great. It's not crazy heavy. I mean, it's just there's a lot of benefits that come along with getting a 15-watt amp, I think. And you can find them anywhere.
Yeah.
And use their between $300 and $500 is what you're gonna find them for. I can't remember what they are new.
We'll put it up on the screen here and there'll be links below. So the Blues Junior, great amp. I have always my favorite band of all time is U2, and U2 is iconic. Their guitar player, The Edge, is iconic for using Vox AC30s, and he has just like a collection of them from the '60s. Very cool.
Towers of effects.
Yes, but that sound is very modern. What I call modern contemporary worship music, Hillsong, Jesus Culture, Chris Tomlin. Name your band in that kind of genre of worship music. Is extremely influenced by the sounds of U2. And so I have always sort of leaned towards a Vox sound. And that's because that's what the guy plays. And I owned and recommend a Vox AC15. The made in China, I believe.
I think they're
version.
made in China, yeah.
They have, Vox is based in
the UK.
Europe. Yeah, in the UK. So they have UK made versions, but they're expensive. The Vox AC15 is great. There are a couple different iterations of that. And just the standard AC15, I believe they call it the Custom Classic.
Yeah,
line.
the CC1 or whatever.
Yeah, the CC1 or C1 or whatever it is. Those are great amps. It's a combo amp, 15 watts, 12-inch speaker. Now,
both these amps, good to know, both these amps come with onboard spring reverb.
Yes.
Which, if you get into pedals and all that kind of stuff, which we might later, but just it's nice to have that on board, you know.
So Vox has a couple different, I don't know if you'd call them like offshoots of the AC15. One is this Night Train, which is a head. So amps come in basically two parts, a head and a cabinet, and a combo amp is both of those things in one box, basically. But this is a head. This is called the Night Train. I think the newer Night Trains look a little different, but it's basically this amp. It's a 15 watt. I kind of think of it as an AC15 in a little toaster-sized box. This thing is deceptively heavy.
It is.
But it sounds a lot like an AC15, but you have to have a cabinet that goes with it if you want to amplify the sound. Or something like a cab clone, which we have reviewed here. They also have an AC10, which is a 10-watt version, combo amp. They all kind of have that same sound.
Yeah.
They're all slightly different. But in the
benchmark would be the AC15.
Yeah. Yeah. The AC30 has a little bit different sound, but it's 30 watts. A little more expensive, a lot louder.
Insanely heavy.
Really heavy. Yeah. So Bryce and I like the Blues Junior or the AC15, and I actually recommend that you would go to a store that hopefully has a Fender Mexican-made Telecaster and a Blues Junior and an AC15, which is
shouldn't be hard to find.
Which is any big box guitar store in the world.
Yeah.
And just play through the different amps, play different guitars if you'd like, play through and just find the sound that you like the best.
Yeah.
And another honorable mention that we should say is a used Line 6 pod. I think
for a second there, I thought you were going to say use Line 6 Spider 2.
No, do not buy a Line 6 Spider.
Don't do that.
We talked about Line 6 Spider a little bit in our Helix review.
Yeah.
And I had one once.
Yeah. Once.
I think I never sold it, or maybe I did.
Man.
I wish I still had it. Dude, we straight do a Line 6 Spider review.
Yes.
And the conclusion would be this. Don't buy this thing.
Don't buy it. We might have to go get one and do a review
I
of it
think
anyway.
that would be awesome.
But no, the pod, are we talking like the HD 500?
Yeah, the
series?
HD 500, 500X. You can get them used probably for a lot cheaper now that the Helix
I would
came
venture
out.
between $300 and $400.
Yeah.
And that's all in one.
Yeah, that's everything. You got amps.
Well,
effects,
not guitar, but yeah.
Yeah, everything. The learning curve on a pod is pretty steep.
To do it really, really well and get a great sound out of it. But you've made several patches available. Though.
Yeah, so you can download some pod patches here at Worship Tutorials.
For free,
and they sound good.
Used in our church.
Yeah,
we use them live. So
those are our picks for a guitar, acoustic and electric, and an amp.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about budget, because when I hear people ask me, what is cheap? What is a cheap guitar? That means different things to different people. And we've sort of landed on the $300 to $500 mark on everything.
Yeah.
$300 to $500 for acoustic guitar. If you buy it used, you can probably get it for on the lower side of that. New is.
I would even venture to say, like, the word cheap to me has kind of a negative connotation.
Yeah.
I do prefer the word budget.
Yes.
Because
I do too.
what's the best bang for your buck? And that's what we've really tried to lay out. We actually had a great conversation about this today.
Yeah.
Like, when I think of the word cheap, it makes me think of something that I don't actually look forward to playing. Which is a negative thing, especially if you're a new guitar player, or you're just getting into, especially electric.
Yeah.
Because you're spending so much money to get these various parts anyway. You want something that isn't necessarily going to break the bank, but you look forward to playing.
Yeah.
It can feel good and it can sound good if you get it set up properly. So that's really what we've tried to lay out.
Yeah. I suspect a lot of you when you're saying what is the best cheap guitar, you're thinking like $100, $99, and you can find, like, if you go to Guitar Center, I think here we go with Guitar Center again, but I think like one of their best selling things ever is like the $99 starter.
The starter pack
that comes with the guitar, the amp, the strap,
okay,
the cable.
Brian, confession. When
you had one, didn't you?
Not from Guitar Center. I mean, it might have been, but. When I got my first electric guitar, I was in, I think, 7th grade.
Yeah.
And my parents bought me a starter pack off of eBay, and I think it was in the $100 to $150 price range, and it was a Strat.
Yes.
It was a Strat style guitar.
Was it Starcaster?
No, it didn't have a name on the headstock.
Okay.
It was that cool. And I had a little imitation looking Marshall that you could clip onto your belt.
Oh yeah,
and it ran
like
off,
School of Rock.
Ran off a single 9-volt battery straight up.
Those can actually be kind of fun.
It was,
but not as your only option.
It was pretty cool, yeah. And I remember breaking. I knew how to tune. I just had no idea that it was EADGBE.
Oh no.
And so I just knew, 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret, 4th fret, that deal. And I broke.
So it tuned to itself.
I broke a string before I even got to play it. So it's amazing I stuck with it.
So here's the deal. We've recommended you guitars that may be out of your price range if you're looking for a cheap guitar. But I would highly recommend that you spend a little more time and save up some money.
Definitely.
Or wait for like a birthday or Christmas or something. I don't know what your situation is. But look used. Look at Craigslist. Look at eBay.
Yeah.
Reverb.com is a great place to buy used gear.
If you're on Facebook... The Gear Talk Classifieds pages. I mean, you can find a lot of great deals on there.
I think that your experience playing guitar will be enormously better if you save up a little more and buy a quality, inexpensive, budget-friendly guitar, but that's still a great guitar. It's totally worth it, in my opinion. If you buy that $100 guitar, I think you're going to play it once and never again. And you're going to hate it. And you're going to have this memory of guitar that you're fighting with that thing. It's never in tune. It doesn't play well. Strings fret out when you play them.
Which again comes back to the importance of getting it set up.
Yeah.
Because any guitar you pull off the wall is probably, unless you're going to a really nice, kind of like a boutique-esque guitar shop, they're not setting every instrument up.
So there you go. Those are our picks for the best budget guitars, electric, acoustic, and amps. Remember that this is highly subjective, and we're coming at this from our collective experience playing guitar I've been playing for 20 years. And
I've been playing for 13, 14 years. So, I mean, collectively it's,
about 33 years of experience.
A lot of combined experience.
Yeah. So we've played a lot of guitars. This is kind of where we land. And I've actually taught a lot of students, and I've seen a lot of students struggle with really, really cheap, not well-made guitars, and I've just thought, if you would have just gone for a little higher end, still inexpensive budget, you would be having a much different experience right now. But these are also great guitars as backup guitars, or even as your main guitar. Like I would straight up play a Fender stock Mexican-made Telecaster every single Sunday. If that's what I had, I'd play it and it would sound awesome. Hey, if you have a favorite budget guitar, tell us in the comments. Remember to subscribe to the channel. We upload new videos all the time. And like this video if you like the video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Bye.